necessarily be, sitting on your meditation pillow for like 30 minutes, right, each day. That it's really just taking some time to stop, breathe, refocus.
Hello, high achiever. Welcome to the Inside Job Journey podcast. I'm Tiana, a certified professional coach. I work with highly effective and driven people that are always striving for more, helping them define what that more is and learning what they really want. In this podcast, I want to bring you on a discovery journey where you can learn more about what's driving you to never settle.
Hello, high achiever. Welcome to another episode of the Inside Job Journey podcast. Today with me, I have Cherie Tripp. She's a health coach and she came to this podcast to talk a little bit about healthy eating for the brain and other things that can help high achievers perform at their best. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So we were speaking behind the scene, and I was just curious to learn about your origin story, because you mentioned that you were working in the finance industry. So tell me a little bit more about yourself and how you became a health coach.
Yes, absolutely. So I definitely consider myself to be a high achiever. And I always had very high expectations for myself. So, once I got my degree, my bachelor's degree, and I love learning too. So putting those two together, I kept, wanting to continue my education. I ended up getting 2 master's degrees in finance and accounting, and then studied for the CPA exam. So I got my CPA license as well. And, just was really focused on my career and, continuing to climb that corporate ladder. So I was able to be very successful in that. But with that came a lot of stress, a lot of long hours, as you can imagine, especially in accounting. It's not only quarterly reporting, but you have
Monthly.
month end close, right? So it was like, okay, we finished that. And then all of a sudden, oh, here we are again. So it was nonstop, which, made it interesting, but, also was very hard to take any breaks and relax, and also having a very long commute as well. So, it was taking me about an hour and a half each day to commute into the city to go to work. So, very long days plus having to manage teams. It was a lot. And so I really had to take a step back and realize that I didn't want to jeopardize my health, for my career. I wanted to be able to, have it all, as we all do. So I ended up doing a lot of, work myself, self study on things I can do to, take care of myself better. And then the pandemic hit, and we were all, staying home, working from home. And during that time, I was able to sign up for a program for health coaching. And I really did it at first just to educate myself and see what I could take away from that and implement into my own life. And while I was doing the program, I just became so passionate about the topics that we were discussing, and it just made so much sense to me. And I realized that I wanted to help other people in my same situation, because I know that it's not just me out there that are in high pressure, busy jobs. We all just lead busy lives in general, right? So I decided to, try something, different and be able to start my own business and help others. So, and also in doing that, is I was introduced in that program to Dr. Daniel Amen, and he has dedicated his career. He's a psychologist, but he's dedicated his career to brain health. And so it's fascinating, some of the work that he's been able to do with brain scans and all of that. And so that's how I got interested in that area as well, and studied under him and became certified brain health trainer under his program as well. And so I thought it was a really good kind of complement to each other.
Yeah, very impressive. Even in that, you come up as a high
I
achiever.
know. Yes, yes.
It's amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, what really I like what you said, because you said I was doing it for me at first. I didn't go there to start this new career. I was just trying to find ways to help myself be more balanced and find better ways of living. And I think that's very helpful, because then when you go through something like this and then become someone that helps other people go through that, I think it's different when you have the experience firsthand, because you can understand a lot what people go through. So what are some of the things that help you change a little bit and deal with that having high expectation of yourself, and how you incorporated what you learned in your day-to-day life?
Yeah. So one of the things that's really been helpful to me is having a meditation practice. And what I've, learned is that meditation doesn't have to necessarily be, sitting on your meditation pillow for like 30 minutes, right, each day. That it's really just taking some time to stop, breathe, refocus. I even like walking meditation. So I think it's really great, because one of the things that I always found is that, being the job that I had, I would sit a lot at my desk each day, and, you don't get up. And so I was, started making sure I got up and taking a walk at lunch. And then when you're doing that, you can practice like a walking meditation, which basically is that you're just focusing on all of your movements. So you think about like, oh, picking my right leg up, moving my right leg, putting my right foot down. And like, you just think through like every single step you're doing, and it brings you more into like a meditative state. So I thought that was really cool, because it's kind of getting out of that thought process as just one way to do things. There's different ways. So I really liked, doing that. I found that, it was really calming, and gave me a chance to, like I said, just like refocus and think. And then also just really paying attention to my diet and planning ahead. So, on the weekends, I would make sure I, planned out at least like my breakfast and lunch, and meal prepped everything so that it was ready to go. Because, I'd be getting up early to, catch the train, and then, getting home late. And so left to doing it in the week, it wouldn't get done. And then I would go get the takeout or the fast food, right?
Yeah.
Which not only is expensive, but not always the best for you. So having kind of taking that little bit of time, on the weekend to think about what my goals are, how I want to feel, and setting myself up for success really went a long way, I found.
And I like how both things that you mentioned were really doing things intentionally, with the intention of doing something for yourself, and planning ahead, investing somehow time, because sometimes people get stuck by thinking that they have to do big things that really change completely their life to get more healthy or to manage some of the tendencies that as high achiever we have. But it's being intentional and maybe just introducing one thing at a time.
Yes, absolutely. I am all about like small, sustainable habits. And like you said, especially for high achievers, that can be hard to get into that mindset, but it really does make a big difference because you do one thing, you get your confidence up, and then you can slowly add things in over time, but you don't have to do everything at once.
Also, because as a high achiever, if you slightly fail at something, you feel like, yeah, maybe that's not the right thing for me because I usually do everything so easily. So if I'm not doing this easily, maybe it's not my thing. So we tend to give up a little bit on things that don't come like immediately or
Yeah,
don't give that
yeah.
feedback of
Yes, yes. And like the all or nothing mentality, right? Yes, I'm either going to be perfect at this or forget it, I'm not doing it.
exactly.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So you mentioned taking care of also about your healthy eating habits. What are some of the foods that you introduce or that you change how you use to help you with your brain health?
Yeah, so um the first thing that I'll mention is protein. So finding that protein, especially combined with some sort of fat, really helps like stabilize your blood sugar and keeps you from having those, kind of crashes where if you have a lot of carbs, which is what I was doing because, left to my own devices, I'll have pasta every day. I love carbs, yes. um and it's very hard. I learned it's very hard for me to get in protein. I have to plan my day to make sure I get sufficient protein in. So that was one big difference that I made, is I made sure I was balancing more my carbs, my fats, and my proteins. So that really helped me. And the protein helps you stay fuller longer. So it was giving me more energy throughout the day. So, and I learned that you can have, protein powder. It's, you can be creative with things. I'd put, add protein powder in like make overnight oats,
Oh,
put that in there, which
yes.
that was great because I could just grab it in the morning and take it with me. And I was getting like 25 grams of protein, from the
Yeah.
protein powder. So things like that I started to pay more attention to. And then also just having more whole foods is really good for your health in general and especially your brain. So having the fruits, vegetables, berries specifically are great. Blueberries. I did learn that you want to get organic blueberries. I know organic can be expensive, so you could definitely, there's certain things where you want to make sure you get organic and others are, oh, nice to have, but blueberries are one that you want to get organic because they hold on to the pesticides more. So
Oh,
yeah, so the berries, and then really like any type of vegetables are great, and spices too. So cinnamon is great for the brain, garlic too. So just kind of adding, again, small little things here and there, into my diet. So I could put some cinnamon on the overnight oats, for example, like little things like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So if we had to think about an ideal day where someone that wants to become more healthy and to have peak performance for their brain, what
Yeah.
would be the most important meal for them to try to focus on as a first step?
I would say breakfast, just because if we're thinking about how we want to perform at work, that it really, it gets you off to a good start because you're going to feel full, have the energy, right, to kind of hit the ground running for the day. Against, trying to focus on, stabilizing your blood sugar. So I would say breakfast. And I was always someone that never really ate breakfast, and I would just grab a
Exactly.
coffee.
Running right at work.
Right,
Maybe a
right.
coffee.
Yes, yes. And so that's why I found, to knowing that about myself is, I would find the recipes, like, something that I could do overnight or that would be really quick and easy for me to have or grab and then eat when I got to my desk, at work. So try to make it as easy on myself as possible.
Yeah, and you mentioned oatmeal. Anything else that you will suggest as a easy to grab breakfast?
Eggs, there's different, you can make like, if you have the pans with like, to kind of make little egg cups, you can do those ahead of time, and then just heat them back up. So that's a really good source of protein. If you just have egg whites, that's all protein. And eggs, a whole egg is good for protein and fats too. So, and you can combine that. Like, I would just bring an English muffin sometimes too. We had a toaster in the kitchen in the office, so that would kind of be my carb. So that's like, a full meal right there. So, also adding nuts in as well. And so I would go, and sometimes you can get the 100-calorie pack
Mhm.
of nuts, right? So that's a really easy grab and go as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you mentioned morning as an important step to get yourself centered for the day to come. And that starts with sleep. And I know that you're passionate also around sleeping patterns and how sleep can really enhance your brain. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yes. So being a data person, I started looking at
I wouldn't guess in finance.
I don't know if it was a blessing or a curse when I got my Fitbit. It gave me a lot of data to analyze. And I was, always looking at my sleep scores and, the amount of hours, and, realize that ideally I wasn't getting enough. And, I kind of always had that thought mentality of, oh, sleep when you're dead type of thing, right? But I learned that no, we need to, get our sleep in. And this, when we sleep, that's really when the brain cleanses itself, and it helps us wake up, focused and not having the brain fog and all of that. So it's really important to get like our 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night, for our overall health, and especially the brain. So what I had started to try to do is make sure that I was getting a consistent sleep schedule. So even on the weekends, it's ideal, you want to try to, as much as possible, kind of go to bed and get up at the same time. And then also, gadgets and like technology, I found, I'm sure you know about like blue light and how we get it from all of our devices. So we really shouldn't be using our devices at night, especially like an hour or two before we go to bed. That can really affect our sleep, because we're going to the blue light makes us think that it's daytime out.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
Okay.
um, so that's a hard one to do, but that's
Yeah, like scrolling at the end of the
I
day, like
know,
mindlessly,
ex-
guilty pleasure.
exactly. I know. So, but maybe try it, to have, start with like 30 minutes before you go to bed and kind of work backwards from there. But that's another thing that definitely helps.
Mhm.
And also trying to have your bedroom be not a lot of light, so have it be as dark as possible can help, along with the temperature of the room to try to keep it cooler and
Oh,
help your sleep.
okay. I hate I hate that. I have to feel like how this possible, and my husband hates me for that because
Oh no.
like he's like, oh, it's so hot in here. So
I know.
a
I get you.
colder temperature
Yeah.
would help with
It
sleep.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. It helps the body relax, and yeah. And I know, I hear you. I have a lot of blankets too.
What about snoozing? I've heard that it's not ideal to snooze and go back and wake up again and snooze again and the circle.
Yeah.
I don't do that because when I'm awake, I really have a hard time going back to sleep. But it's something that in our society happens.
Oh, yes. And I've been very guilty of it. I mean, probably like 5 times, I'd hit the snooze. And I'm like, why don't I just change the time on the alarm to be a half hour later? Like, what am I doing? But yeah, no, it's true, because there's the different sleep stages that you kind of go through. Like, your light sleep and your deeper rest. And so, yeah, when you're up, like in the snooze is what, like 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So you're not going to have time to really get back into a restful state. So it's not, in my opinion, yeah, you're not really gaining much from hitting the snooze.
So you mentioned one of the habits, it's just taking away our devices a little bit before um, getting to sleep, having a cool temperature in the room. What are some of the things that you can do during the day to have that? Because a lot of people I know have trouble sleeping, especially as an overachiever that usually tends to already think about the next day and all the things that you need to do. My to-do list is full. What are some of the things that we can do to help that sleep clicking?
Yeah. One of the things is we really want to be paying attention to our diet and what we're consuming during the day. So caffeine is a really big thing, and I love my coffee. So this, another another one that I know could be hard, especially I know with my last job, my at the bottom of my building was a coffee shop. So it was so easy at that, 3 o'clock slump, right, to go downstairs and get the good coffee. But we really want to be limiting our caffeine,
Mhm.
to just for brain health in general.
Mhm.
Caffeine is not the best. 1 cup a day is not going, to really cause any harm. But I would say we want to try to limit it to 1 cup and have it in the morning. So try to not have any caffeine in the afternoon. That can keep you up at night. It's amazing how long the caffeine actually stays in your body. So if you have it later in the day, it could be a big reason why you're having
Yeah,
trouble.
as an espresso drinker, like that's like it doesn't even affect me anymore. I can drink my espresso and go to sleep, but I guess my body, it's like different. So my body, it's maybe my mind, it's okay with it, but my body, it's still processing. So I guess it's something that doesn't help.
Yeah, no, I know. I've always been someone that could have coffee and just go to sleep. Like it never helped me like to stay up studying or anything, right? Drinking the coffee. I'm like, it doesn't do anything to me.
Exactly.
but other people, it can totally really affect you. So it's good to just be aware and, experiment. If you have coffee in the afternoon, try, taking that away, having decaffeinated coffee or decaffeinated tea, and just see if it makes a difference.
And we mentioned at the beginning that you somehow in your career you were an overachiever, you always wanted to progress, and that kind of got you to a point that it was getting too much, right? And I know that taking care of our brain and taking, for example, making time for meditation and to sleep well can help prevent some of the stress and the burnout. But what are some of the symptoms that we can make attention to make sure that we are not getting to that point that will get us like it's too much? Because we usually notice when it's already kind of late, when you are really drained or without energy.
Yeah. Um, I would say to kind of take a step back and look at your life overall and see where you're spending your time. And if you're finding that you're not spending a lot of time, in things that bring you joy, right? So your friends, family. I know I love to travel. If it's more that it's work, 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 that is, a red flag, right? That you need to kind of step back and bring in some of these other areas so that you feel more balanced.
Right,
No,
right. Because when you're into it and you don't even realize, and maybe you're thinking about work even when you are really with your family or with your friends, and you keep thinking back and getting that awareness that you are letting letting that expand to other areas of your life, I think that's something that can help you really stop and say, hey, it's getting
yeah.
too much.
Yes. And one of the things I wish I had realized earlier is really about setting healthy boundaries. So I think it can be really hard, especially for high achievers, because I don't know, for myself, it's like, oh, if I am asking for help or, saying I have too much on my plate, it's like, oh, am I failing at my job? Am I not doing good enough? And it's not the case, and sometimes our managers like may not fully understand everything that we have. So if you get another project on your desk and you feel like it's too much, be like, okay, talk to your manager, like communication, and be like, is there something else I can, push to the side to handle this project instead? Because I don't think I have the time to do everything, and then making sure that we're not checking our work emails when we're on vacation, and
Uh,
really having that time to step
just one
away.
email.
I know. I know. And sometimes we think that like we have to, right? Like that's what it's expected of us. And again, it's not, or it shouldn't be, so trying to really just stand up for ourselves and set those boundaries can help prevent the burnout down the road.
Yeah, one thing that I learned is when I'm kind of an enthusiast of new things, so I am a junkie for new projects. So usually when something new comes up and I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've learned that when I do that, I'm saying no to something else. So when before saying yes to something, I always have to think through and say, okay, if I say yes to this, what I'm saying no to, because it makes things easier to put in perspective because you are very excited to get something new and something to learn. As you say, learning enthusiast,
Yeah.
always wanting to grow. But
Yeah.
if you really think about it in terms, okay, I'm saying yes to that, but maybe I need to say no to something else. And maybe that's what you need to do. But just having that moment of not saying yes immediately and
Right.
thinking
Right.
through it.
Yes, absolutely. Taking a pause and thinking,
Right.
yes, yes. And also utilizing your team, so I know sometimes, at least for me, it would be like, oh, I don't have a lot of time to get something done. It's easier for me to just do it myself. And, so that ends up just getting more and more right on your plate when you have a team that you can delegate to. And so make sure you're utilizing your teams, efficiently and effectively.
Yeah. And when you say that, it's a matter of sometimes it's even us thinking that something is needed or that people will perceive us in a certain way if we don't put those boundaries. But most of the times, it's not like that. It's our own expectations that we are measuring ourselves against.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I think that sometimes when we then have the conversations, to your manager, they may be like, oh, I didn't realize, or, yeah, no, I don't want you to have all this on your plate. But but for us, yes, we're thinking that we have to do everything right this second. And
Exactly.
100% correct, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and that inner ownership, like you can't let go, like feeling responsible for something in a way that it's even too much. Like you have to give people the space and the responsibility to take their own ownership. It's not always just on you.
Yes. No, I agree. Totally. Mhm.
So time has flown by, and I
Oh,
just wanted to thank you for your time. And before we close, I always like to ask because we talked about a lot of things, and you shared a lot of tips with our public. So I just wanted to ask you if you could pick one thing that they should take away from this conversation. What is the thing that you want them to get away with and focus on?
yeah. I would definitely say going back to the habits and the changes and the one like small change at a time. So finding, kind of analyzing where you are right now, where is it stress, is it sleep, like, kind of, pick one of the areas that you really can relate to and just see what one small change you can make this week to move yourself in the right direction, and then work, add on over time, but really just small sustainable habits.
Yes, and give yourself kindness because
Absolutely.
you don't have to be perfect. You can have the habit in place, and then once you can miss it, it's not the end of the world. Just come the next day with the same intention to continue on your path.
Yeah, absolutely. We're never going to be perfect. So, yeah, each day, wake up, it's a new day. Don't worry about what happened yesterday. Just worry about today going forward. So,
Good. Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure to talk about everything with you and to just learn about your story and how you help people get better and have a better health overall with a holistic approach.
yeah, no, thank you. I loved talking with you and your audience as well.
Thank you.
This episode is over. However, you can like, subscribe, and follow for more content.